Hello, my name is Andrew Thake. I'm a Divisional Director with Resourcing Tomorrow. Delighted to be joined today by Beth Borody, who's a founder and Chief Executive Officer of the Femina Collective. Delighted to have you with us today, Beth.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm so glad to be here.
Beth, what are the most significant barriers women still face in the mining industry today, and how are organisations such as the Femina Collective and also Women in Mining helping to address those challenges?
Well, right off the bat, I think that it's great that we are seeing so much activity from women's groups in mining. I have been a big fan of women in mining groups since I started my career in mining, because from a very early start in my career, I was facing barriers that women typically face. And those barriers aren't always really overt. They're not always the really extreme cases that we hear. They're things like tall poppy syndrome. So when really ambitious or confident women are moving up the corporate ladder really quickly, their careers are sabotaged by both men and women who feel threatened by their growth, or threatened that they may be taking up more space than what has typically been seen for women. We know that women are still underrepresented in leadership roles. We know that maternity leaves or family leaves can have a huge impact on careers. And we are seeing both women in mining groups and Femina Collective tackle these from different aspects. So what I think the WIM groups are really fantastic at is they are really fantastic at the broad networking. They're really good at advocating on behalf of women. They're really great at working with companies directly to really make sure that companies understand what these barriers are, because sometimes it can be an unconscious bias that's showing up, or unintentional on how companies are behaving. What Femina has done is we started out as a collective of women that really looks at each woman individually. So we provide a safe community, an intimate setting for women to connect, women to build confidence, and women to connect with other women from around the world and from different streams in the industry. And so what we do is really focus on the individual, as well as really look at leverage points in the mining industry where women are typically underrepresented. And that really is in leadership, it's in investing, and it's in mine ownership. And so we are really tackling those areas specifically to really make sure women's voices are amplified.
And in your answer to that question, you talked a little bit about investment. How are you helping women to learn more about the mining industry and learn more about the mining investment opportunities?
Mm-hmm. Right off the bat, I want to say that both investing at large and the mining industry as separate entities are very unknown to women. And what we started learning was through my own learning 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, when I was supporting a junior company in Canada to do a raise. We were trying to find investors, and all of the investors that we were finding were older white men, which is fairly typical in the junior space, particularly on the retail side. And during this, I realized that given my executive role in the industry at the time, I actually qualified as accredited investor, and I could actually take place in the private placements that I was pitching to other people to be participating in. And I had this moment where I thought, if I didn't know that, being the age I was, being the gender I was, and holding the position I had, I'm sure there are many other women in the industry who also didn't know that. And so this took us on a 2-year journey of figuring out how do we get more women to understand that investing in mining could be a great opportunity for them to generate their own wealth and help the industry excel, because we know capital is so hard to raise right now. And so we have a twofold way of doing this. One, we have education courses where we go right back to the foundations. We partner with Canadian institutions to talk about what is investing, how do you build your portfolio, your risk tolerance, those types of things. And then we go right into mining. Why is mining so important for global economies? What's happening in the mining space right now? How do you invest in mining? What are the questions and due diligence you should be doing as a retail investor? And we really give women the tools so that they can make their own choices and not just be told it's either too risky for them or it's an industry that they shouldn't look at. The other part that we do is through Project Momentum, which is working directly with accredited investors who are female and matching them with companies who are raising. So we have companies who approach us and say they're going into a funding round, round, can they pitch to our community of accredited investors? And so we'll set up those meetings. We always encourage every investor to do their own due diligence, make sure that they understand the risk associated with mining. But what we have seen over the last 4 or 5 months is every meeting that we have actually hosted, we've seen investment be put on the table, both from new and recurring investors. So we know women have a big appetite to dive into this area. They just haven't had the tools or education to know how to do it. And that's where we've come in and tried to close that gap.
And in terms of the mining sector, what trends are you seeing among younger women entering the mining sector, and how can the industry better support their ambitions, whether it's investment or otherwise?
It's really quite simple. Women just want to be everywhere everyone else is. We just want to have the same opportunities. We want to be treated equal, and we want people to see that our ambitions and our confidence are the same as everyone else's. And so companies really need to lean into the women coming into their companies right now, because they're coming with an immense amount of talent and expertise, and we want to be able to keep that. And that means doing things differently for women. That means looking again, the classic case of maternity leaves or parental leaves for both men and women. It's how do you make sure that women feel supported to be able to take that time? Again, men and women. Men also need those paternity leaves equally to women. And how do you make sure that women are thriving by providing them different opportunities or different accommodations to make sure that they are staying within your workforce? I think from an investor landscape, we are seeing women coming into the investment space so fast right now. I think in Canada, in the US, we know that within the next 5 years, women are going to control 50% of the wealth in our countries. And that's never been seen before. This is a historic moment. And so we know women are looking to see, what do I do with this? How do I invest this? How do I make sure that I'm being smart with my money? And as they're asking those questions, we want to be right at the forefront saying, look at mining, look at what the industry has. It is a critical industry for global economies. It's a critical industry for moving forward to a green economy. And we need women coming in and seeing themselves there. And we know that they want to. And so again, it's a matter of just lack of knowledge and lack of education, as opposed to being fearful of the industry or not wanting to dive in from a risk perspective.
And just as a bit of a follow-up question to that, workforce demographics are shifting. How well is the mining industry doing at attracting that next generation of talent? And are there a few things it can and should be doing differently?
So I think within mining, we're actually seeing that the ratio of men to women is actually much higher than other industries such as construction or other labor intensive industries. So that's a great thing. We're seeing that there are more women coming into the industry, but those numbers are still only about 14-15% globally. So they're still extremely low. And the way that we need to bring women in is just really to look at intention. How are we recruiting leaders? How are we recruiting people onto our boards? How are we promoting students to look at the mining industry who are not just in mining engineering programs? How are we showing that the requirements for the industry or the talent that's needed is vast and very, very broad? We need accountants, we need social experts, we need environmental scientists, we need engineers, we need chemists, we need people from all over. And I think that perception is still seen as, if you're going into mining, it's kind of a dirty job. You're going to get stuck under, like, in a muddy condition. You have to be an engineer. It's very kind of laborious, and it's very hard work. Where that is an aspect of mining, but that is not the industry as a whole. And so really making sure that we're telling the story of mining differently. An example of this is that when we post at Femina, we try, and when we talk with our marketing, we try and showcase women from all different fields, from women in business suits to women who are in hard hats and proper PPE to women who are just in casual clothing, because we want to show that women, no matter what their background is, that there is probably room for them in the mining industry, and really broadening that perception of what's required.
What advice would you give to a smart, driven female college student about to enter the real world? And more importantly, what advice should they ignore?
Advice I would give. Lean into your gut, lean into those smarts, lean into your own confidence, because you know what you're capable of and you know where you want to go. And with that, and coupled with that, is find your people, find the other men and women who are going to support you, who are going to be mentors for you, sponsors for you. Really seek that out, because people really get jobs, promotions, accelerate in their careers by the people they know these days. It's not by however good your resume is. It really is, who is your network and how are you presenting yourself? So lean into that confidence and lean into what you're bringing to the industry. Advice you should ignore: anytime anyone says this isn't a job for a woman, and that is still said far too often. Anytime there is a limiting belief that is brought into a statement, ignore it. Throw it out. Do not let anyone tell you that your experience doesn't match what is required. You can learn, you can adapt, you can change your profession, you can change the track that you're on, and do not let other people's limiting beliefs dictate how you make decisions for yourself and your career.
And my last question, going back to the topic of investment, what is the best investment or the most worthwhile investment that you've ever made? And it could be an investment of money, such as an investment into stocks and shares. It could be an investment of time, an investment of energy. What's the best investment?
I will give two of those, two examples. The first one is investing back in my own learning. So I had been working in the mining industry. I had been working at the executive level, and I knew nothing about mining investment. I knew nothing other than what was given to me in my compensation package through options and shares of my own company. I knew nothing about the industry. The best thing I have done for myself, for my family, for my wealth generation is actually learn more about how to invest in the mining industry and the opportunities that are there. I will say, and again, putting the caveat is I am not a financial advisor or a financial planner. This is all just my personal story. The best thing I have done for my investment portfolio at the moment is invest in copper. Through EFTs and through companies specifically, I have seen incredible returns over the last 2 years that have allowed me to make bigger investments in bigger companies based on those returns. And so understanding, again, that importance of mining, the scarcity of materials we have right now based on what we know we're going to need in the future, it really comes back to supply and demand. It really comes back to prices are going to rise as supply is not meeting that. And we know the industry needs more capital. So those are two examples that I would give, is both educating myself and really diving deep into something that I didn't know about, and then very specifically what I've invested in within my own portfolio.
Beth, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. That was Beth Borody, founder and Chief Executive Officer of the Femina Collective.